Welcome to the Sisterhood Tea Party, where we get together weekly to discuss all the tea about life, relationships, pop culture, and generally anything you chat about with your best friend over a cup of tea or beverage of choice.
We're your hosts, Stephanie and Jessica, and we've been spilling the tea to each other for more than a decade, and now we're ready to invite the rest of you to the tea party.
In today's episode, we are spilling the tea on how women and men communicate. We are going to get into it today. We are not holding back on the differences that we have seen and how it impacts friendships and relationships.
A quick plug before we get started. If you like what you hear today, you can follow at Sisterhood Tea Party on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram.
All right, let's get to sipping with what's top of mind for us this week. I think it's going to be a spicy one for us. Stephanie, what's top of mind for you?
All right, top of mind for me is people who choose to remove you from like everything instead of just owning their behavior and addressing it head on. Okay. And it'll kind of get into what we're talking about today, but I have recently went through a situation where there was a girl who did me wrong, disrespected me in front of a group of my friends. And instead of just owning the issue and like having those conversations to kind of move forward and become, I guess, better again, she decided to just remove me from Instagram, from TikTok. TikTok is hilarious. Facebook, all of these things. And so what did I do? I went lower and I blocked her, because what you're not going to do is come back around and creep on me and see how I'm doing. No, if you chose to actively remove me, I'm going to just do you one better and just block you, because you can't come back from that. So
No.
That's it. That's
one, because I know some of the backstory here that we won't share all in detail, but
correct.
Doesn't surprise me.
Right. Given what I've told you about this particular person, it makes sense. And at the same time, like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be your friend when you couldn't own up to what you did. Like, we could have worked through it, but you decided to go this route. And so there we have it.
And I think this is like an interesting shout out to our friendship breakups episode, because I think there's a difference between ending a friendship and blocking people from your life because they are unhealthy or toxic towards you, versus using that tactic as a way to not own up to your bad behavior. So make sure you are reflecting maybe why that might be in the first place.
Exactly. Because I don't want anybody to go back to that episode and be like, oh, you decided to block her. No, there's a reason why I did, because I wanted to communicate. We had plenty of opportunities, and this is the route that she decided to take. So bye.
She out here communicating like a man, but we'll get to that soon. Okay, my top of mind is also a little spicy. My top of mind is karma. Oh, I love karma. When Taylor Swift said, "Karma is my boyfriend, karma is a god," I felt that in my soul, in my freaking soul. Okay, so story time here. So we are recording this on November 20th, and so just like a few weeks before this episode will drop, and the Matt Rife special just came out. And I don't know if you've seen any of the news on this. I have not actually watched it myself. I probably will not. But this man always kind of gave me the ick, like I'm on the thirst trap side of TikTok, where we can like thirst over an attractive man. And so like I kind of understood the appeal of him when he first went viral, but there was something suspicious about propping up a new white man who just like we don't really know a lot of information about on this pedestal when it happened, right? So a while back he went on a podcast and he was like saying some pretty misogynist things about how he feels about women, and TikTok I think does a pretty good job of being like, oh nope, shut that down right away, and kind of canceled him a little bit, right? But then I started seeing his videos on Facebook and Instagram, and yes, I'm an old lady, I'm still on Facebook, don't judge me, but I follow the trends of like how things move from platforms. I think it's very fascinating. Like something will be fresh on TikTok and then later it's fresh here, etc. Right? So a friend of mine, he had posted about Matt Rife on Facebook. Again, this is before the special came out, but after the podcast thing and the demise on TikTok, he posts about it, and I made a comment, and I was like, I think it's so funny that this man has already like hit a peak and then been canceled on one platform, and now he's like becoming big on another. And this girl, okay, let me tell you, this girl and I, we have some history, went to grad school together, and we never really got along. Why? Don't know. Honestly, I think she gives off mean girl energy. She never liked me, so I didn't like her, and
Mm.
that was fine. I haven't talked to this girl in probably 10 years. She comments on this post and is like defending Matt Rife so hard. Like, she's like, I don't think he should be canceled. People are too sensitive. Da, 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 da. And mind you, she's normally someone who would stick up for women's rights. So I was honestly a little shocked that she was like so strong on this man. I was like, why do you love this man so much? Calm down. Um, but I was like, I think this is really because I made this comment and you don't like me. And that's really what's happening. So I just kind of like backtracked, didn't
Yeah.
say anything. Fast forward to today, and this is where karma comes back into place. So everything's going viral on TikTok right now because in the first 5 minutes of this man's stand-up special, he's making jokes about domestic violence. And in an
Yeah.
interview, I think it was with Variety, he was saying that he is hoping that people understand he does not cater his content to women. He wants it to cater to men. And I
It's
am
such
just,
pick me male
oh,
energy, like pick me energy. It's like he tried to get into the guys club one too many times, got rejected, and now he's like, okay, this has to be it. This, I'm just gonna throw everything out and see what sticks. I'm like,
literally. And which is so stupid because if that's a dumb financial decision because women
100%.
drive spending. Period. Across almost all markets, women drive spending, especially entertainment markets. Look at the year of the Barbie. Like, come on. And so my
No,
karma
that's
moment
right.
though, I'm very heated, but my karma moment is just thinking, I know this girl sees this news. I know she sees it. And I just wonder if she's still defending him as strongly as she was. And if not,
She,
I hope she feels like a fool. I hope she
she's
feels
curled
like
up
a
in a
fool.
ball. She's freaked out. She's like, oh no, I just doubled down on a comment and now I'm gonna
I
have
want
to.
to go find
Mm-mm.
it and screenshot it. Keep the receipts,
Uh-huh.
because who
Because
knows
she's
what
gonna
else will
try and
come
go.
out.
Oh, I'm sure there'll be a lot more that comes out. I'm 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 sure.
So that's top of mind. I'm like
Yikes.
loving it though. I love these moments where I just like sit back, watch someone make a fool about themselves, and then later
Mm-hmm.
karma comes back around to bite them. Oh, beautiful. Love it.
I love it too.
This is where we are starting this episode. Okay, let's get into the real tea though. We're talking about how women and men communicate differently. Um, Disclaimer. I feel like we need to give a disclaimer. Although I
Yeah.
don't know, maybe we needed a disclaimer before my little rant that just happened. But
We'll put like a little like warning at the beginning, just in case anybody gets like upset by the content, just so you know, stop listening now.
yeah. Yeah, this content is for the girls, gays, and theys.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not going to be great for straight men in this. But like these are overgeneralizations. These are not scientific. We may have both a background in psychology, but this is not a clinical
No,
diagnosis. This is just observations, if you will.
that's all it is.
So don't get mad at us, even though I'm sure someone will, but we're just gossiping.
I can
We're
see the
not
comments
therapists.
now.
Oh,
I
I mean,
know.
we've already gotten some women do this too comments. So I'm
Yeah,
sure
it's
we're
like,
gonna
oh yeah, okay. Like, you don't think we know that?
read the room. This is the sisterhood tea party. Okay, we're not
Come
talking shit
on.
on our sisters. Come on. Okay, where should we start? How do they communicate differently, men and women? And pros and cons of some of that. What do you think?
Where should we start?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, I don't know. It's just there's so much to say. I guess I will say this. So I say that men think that communication overall, generally, should like solve something.
Mm.
Like they just get into conversations with like a means to an end. Like they don't really think much about it. They just kind of get into it and they're like, this has a solution. This has this. We need to fix it. How can we do that without like really thinking too much into it? While women, we really like listen to understand and we are asking questions. We want to really like invest in that conversation. So we can start there and then like open up the entire can of worms that we have.
I feel like that's so true. And like there's like a depth difference with that, right?
I agree.
Like when you tell me a story, I'm like, wait, was that the person who did this, that, and this? Or like, oh, wait, but like, what about this? Or, oh, I remember you told me about that. Like, I'm like connecting dots from previous stories, from previous
Mm-hmm.
interactions. And I'm asking questions because I want to know, like, but then what did you say? Well, what did you do? And like, men are just like, oh, wow.
The oh wow gets me. I'm like, are you listening?
Oh, that's cool.
You're oh, that's cool. Yeah, you know what else is cool? When you ask me questions about what I'm telling you.
Do
That'd be
you
great.
give a shit? Should I
I
just
don't
talk
care.
to myself?
They don't. Well,
Yeah.
I feel like so within friendships, going into that, I think
Yeah.
generally men, they just don't go in depth as much as we do, right?
No.
When it comes to like knowing like family history, figuring out like when they went through like a really challenging time, like their mental health, whatever it is, they're not talking about that at all. And so it's
Mm.
very much just like surface level, the idea of like less is more to them in a sense where this is all I'm going to share to you and like just take it for what it is and like that's it.
Yep.
Um and again, like I feel like with women, we are just generally more expressive when it comes to friendships. Like we are investing in conversations, investing in that time. Like as an example, I have a specific group chat that we talk every single day in this group chat, and we're sharing memes, we're sharing screenshots of our day list on Spotify, we're sharing like the latest tea about something or someone or whatever it is. Like we're constantly communicating. And on the other side of that too, we're also sharing when things are challenging for us, when we're going through like a challenging time, we're traveling or whatever it is, like anything under the sun, we are just communicating because that's just who we are. I think it's important to just continue to
Yes.
openly discuss those feelings. Whatever you're going through day to day, that's just how we stay connected, especially since we don't really see each other every day.
Yeah, I think like women, we like if men do things, women discuss things. Like I could just go to brunch with a friend and talk the whole time and like we're not really doing anything. You know what I mean? Like yeah,
Right.
we're eating brunch, but like I don't know, or have a friend come over and just sit on the couch and chill and talk. Like we don't have to be like doing things to do those
Yeah.
things where I feel like it is more common for men to do things. Not that women don't do
Right.
things, but it's just the norm for men I think is different.
It just I agree. I feel like it seems like almost their answer to almost everything is just let's just go out. Let's go to the game. Let's go do this just because they want to take their mind off of whatever it is or just avoid having those beyond surface level conversations with their
Yep.
friends. Like I guarantee you most men don't even know their top best friends' birthdays. I don't
Well,
think they know them.
no.
Yeah,
No.
you can come and I guarantee comments. I know my friend's birthday. Great, but
How long
not
have
every
you
man
known
does.
that friend though? Because there's lifelong
Exactly.
friends you might have, but like,
Mm-hmm.
how about your best friend that you met just a year ago?
Right.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Think about that. Think about that for a second.
Like, I know all of my friends' family history. I know what went wrong in their last relationship. I know
Mm-hmm.
the things that they're working on in therapy. I know like what their last
Yeah,
depressive state was. Like I know what
we know
job
a
they're going
lot.
for, their interview, how their interview went. Like like so much detail.
Right. Exactly. Like we know so many details about our friends. And I think that's so important. But men, I feel like they don't really know a whole lot about their friends. They know, again, general things, surface level things that, like, again, not that they don't matter, but they don't have the depth that we do in our friendships.
And honestly, it's a pretty beautiful thing when you do see a man who does. Like,
Absolutely.
because obviously, like, we're like talking a little bit of shit right now, but like at the end of the day, like, these are systems that lead to these things, right? That, like, norms
Mhm.
and things like that, which just kinda sucks for men because, I don't know, like, you're missing out on that emotional connection.
Absolutely. And again, going back to the whole generalization, like I know that there are men and I know men who possess these things that we as women do. And I think that is amazing to have. And I think if they would encourage their other friends to lean into that a little bit more, it would
Mhm.
just be a better place,
A better world for all
a
of
better
us.
world.
And, like and it's, like, important to comfort and support for, like, comfort and support, right? Like, I
Hmm.
don't know, like, if you know all these details about my life and I know all these details about your life, then when something goes wrong, it's easier to talk about, "Hey, remember how I was telling you this thing was happening? Okay, so
Yes,
this happened and now I'm a wreck," or or this happened and now I'm really excited. Like, you can get that support either way easier, I think.
exactly. I still think about when I was visiting you and I was sharing details about a guy that I was dating, and I went through this whole spiral, and you were there through every moment of that spiral. We
I even
came
tried
back
to
from
give you
it,
some advice, even though I don't know if it was the best advice because I haven't dated in a long time, but
which is fine. I think the advice I probably needed because I maybe needed a swift kick, but I mean, it's fine because it ended up not working and he was a total jerk anyway. So I think your advice led to me having to end things with him anyway.
and if I recall, it may or may not have had to do with a lack of communication. So
Hmm.
on brand.
Very on brand. It totally checks out.
If even when it's like women are sharing problems too, sometimes it's just you just need to vent, you know? Like even if I don't
Mhm.
know, there are times where like I've told you things like friendship breakups, right? Like we've talked about past friendship breakups. We're talking about stuff that's like at the start of this podcast. It's like I already found a solution, but I need to tell you what happened. You
Yeah.
know, like I don't need you to problem solve because I got it
Right.
solved already, but I need to talk
Mhm.
about it. And I don't know if men do that.
Yeah, I don't feel like most pen do that. I feel like they, again, back to providing just like not a whole lot of details when it comes to these conversations. And again, they're very like action oriented. They're very much like, all right, this is what we need to solve, this is what we need to do. And that's really it. They're not diving into those emotions. They're not really looking into like alternatives. They just want one track. They're a one track mind when it comes to that. One solution, let's fix it, let's move on.
Which honestly, I'm kind of interested in, like, if you're a straight man who still decided to keep going and are not offended by this, please tell me. Like,
Yeah.
do you not want to like know like details or do you not want to talk about it? Like, why don't you want to talk about it?
I would love to know that too on like truthfully, because I remember having a conversation with the same guy that before things ended
Mm,
or whatever. And he right. But in that conversation, he had mentioned that he had a hard time sharing because he didn't want to burden people with his problems. He didn't want to burden like people he was around. So he kept everything to himself. So when he did talk about it, he was very much like little detail as possible. I think I already have a solution. And they'll be like, oh, okay, it sounds like you've got it worked out. And like he would just move on from it, even though he was still struggling with whatever it was. So it was a really
mm.
interesting dynamic. Again, not giving him any credit, but I just wanted to share that example because there are some men that do think about that from time to time.
I think some women are like that too because it's like hyper
Hmm.
independence is what it is, right? Like
Yeah.
I've been there too where I struggle to ask for help with more like thing like not so much the emotional stuff, but like I'm like, oh, if I need to like move, I don't want to burden anyone with helping me move. Like that kind of stuff. I do feel that hyper independence on those kinds of things. But I again, it's an unfortunate culture that has developed for men because the emotional support is so important.
I think so too. And I wish they would really lean into that because they would see there's a whole other world that like people just want to help at the end of the day.
And on that point, and I when I say this, I don't mean just do that with women because I think men are more likely to do that with women than with their friends, which is why sometimes women end up I feel like I'm jumping around a little bit on our topics, what we originally talked about, but men will lean on women more than their friends. And that puts
Mhm.
emotional labor on women too. Like women shouldn't have to solve all of men's problems. Not that we're not here to listen, but you also should be talking to other men about your problems too, because that shouldn't be one person in your life who takes your entire emotional burden. In the same way that I don't put all my emotional things on just you, like I have multiple
Mhm.
people that I can like
Right.
talk to about these things depending on where people are.
Absolutely. And like, it's not to say we don't want someone to carry the entire burden, but at the same time, you have to be mindful of how much you are sharing all of that information, especially with the one person, because that adds to whatever they've got going on too.
Mhm.
And that leads to like the emotional trauma, the dumping, all of that stuff that really they don't need to have. Like it's 100% okay to share those feelings, but you have to be at a point where you can also seek out help. If you need to go to therapy, if you need to seek other people for advice, like being able to have more than one person to lean on, I think is so important.
Yes. I actually saw there's a boundary coach. I'll have to look up what her TikTok handle is, but she talks about like before she will talk to her friends about something, she will explicitly ask like, "Hey, I have some stuff going on. I want to talk about it, but I want to make sure that you're in an emotional state to like receive it right now. So if you're not totally fine, but like let me know."
Mhm.
Which I was like, wow, that's so great. But then me, the people pleaser, would have been like, of course I'm in a good state. Go ahead, tell me everything for any of
Absolutely.
my
And there's like
friends.
two,
But
yes, I think I've actually seen that one too. But also kind of another level of that is making sure that they are also in a place to receive that information without judgment, without
ah,
providing, because especially if someone just wants to vent, just to vent, are they in the space to receive that and making sure that I'm here to listen and that's it? Because
yeah,
if they want feedback, I would hope that person shares, are you able to provide me feedback too? Do you have a mental like space to do that? Or do you have the
yeah,
mental space to just listen and let me be in my thoughts and be in my feelings? I agree with that. I think that's really, really key in being able to have that information shared with you.
yeah, I agree. So on a more silly note, um, and maybe not so serious, why is it that when there is tea being spilled, again, men don't ask the questions? Like, I need to know the tea.
I will never understand how a man can come in, long day at work. Oh my gosh, so and so got fired. Oh, like what happened? Me. Oh my gosh, what happened? And they're like, I don't know. They just got fired.
You
Why are
didn't
you telling me?
ask.
You didn't ask? You didn't get details? Why are you telling me that someone got fired? You have nothing to show for it.
Meanwhile, if that happens, I'm like, I'm checking what their calendar looked like the days before that. I'm looking at any tasks that they filed to see if there was anything that happened
Yes.
on those. What, like, I'm messaging my best work friends, like, did you hear about this? What's happening? Do you want to jump on a call real quick? I need to discuss. I need the details.
All details. It blows my mind how you can have so much of like a starter of a conversation, like someone got fired or did you hear about this? And you have
Someone broke up.
no, someone broke up and you have zero details.
Like,
The details are so like we are so, I think women, we are so detail like oriented when it comes to that.
yes,
Like we want details. We want the tea. Hello, sisterhood tea party. We want the tea. Don't tell
yes.
us something without backstory.
I need all of the details. Or if they're like, oh, I don't even know. It's just like, I can't. I can't. I need details. And then half the time, like if this happens with my husband, I'm like, okay, well, did you ask about this? And then like the next
Right.
time that he's gonna go hang out with that person or something, I'm like, make sure you try to find out. And he's like, how am I gonna slip it in a conversation? And I'm like, that's on you. You should have asked in the moment. It was already brought up, but I need you to go investigate.
It's on you now. You got to figure it out. You had that opportunity to ask the first time, and here we are. Now you have to try again. You have to
Try
try again
again.
because you
Crucial
have to come back
conversation.
home. Yes, you have to come home and share what you found out. You need to share your findings.
I'm just sitting there waiting for him to come home. It's fine.
But now on
Men.
the flip side, now I'm curious if men low key have these conversations low key. Like right now we're talking about the generalizations, but
Mm.
like, are there men that actually do they spill the tea? Like,
And they're just not telling, like they're not
and
telling
they
us,
don't.
like we're on the
Mm-hmm.
outs.
Yes. Like they
No,
pretend like, oh,
no
you don't
way.
think so, right? Okay. I'm just asking questions. I want to gain some like
I
insight
mean, because
here.
I tell my husband the tea. Like,
Right.
sorry, all of my best friends, y'all tell me stuff. Like, I do tell my husband. I won't
He
tell anybody
knows.
else, but he
He
knows.
knows.
He
But
knows.
again, what's he going to do with that information?
Nothing. He doesn't tell
Exactly.
details.
If he can't even get the details of a story that he hears about, he's not doing anything with the details that you tell him.
Yes. But it also now makes me wonder too if because men don't ask questions, when they do get asked questions, if they're like, is this you asking or is this your significant other asking? You know
I
what I
don't
mean?
know. I sometimes don't, again, they're very much like they hear it and they answer it. I don't even think that they're even thinking about who else could be asking in the background. Like if they hear the question, they're just going to answer it.
Oh my God, this cracks me up. I just cannot. Oh gosh. Okay, what else? What about confrontation? I feel like there's some differences in how men and women handle confrontation too.
There are, I think you had a good point that we kind of discussed a little bit earlier. I'll let you start it and then we kind of like bounce off of that because I think you had a really good point in the beginning.
Yeah, so I think it's like I think okay, I feel like men and women maybe define confrontation differently. Whereas even if it's like a small thing that I feel like I need to address with somebody, I'm like still like it's like I'm going in like, okay, this is gonna be a thing. Even if it's like a one word little thing that I gotta say, like, hey, can you do this? Or
Right.
hey, I didn't like how you said that. Like it feels so heavy to like do that. Where I feel like men are just like, hey bro, can you maybe not do that this time? Or like, hey bro, next time can you just like text me? You know? And I'm like, hey, next time, can you please text me? And then I'm like panicked, like, how are they gonna react? Like, but they're just like, I don't know, then it's done. And I'm like, that felt
Yeah.
so big to do. I don't know. That's my thoughts.
They don't really, yeah, they don't really like think too much about the things that they say when it comes to that. Like they're not associating additional meaning to it. They're just like, hey, please don't text me next time. And that's all it means. For
Yeah.
women, we're like, wait, so does that mean I was a bother? Was that mean I did this, that, and like spiraling? Again,
Spiral.
that's how we are. It's okay. It's okay. I own it because I definitely have read into something where I don't need to. I'm looking at a text message for what it is, and I'm assigning 8 different meanings to what has been said. Just read it for what it is, girl. That's
Yes.
that's me talking mess about myself. But but
I mean,
like
see,
in
we're
it,
not just criticizing the straight men. We have our
right.
issues too.
But I agree with that too. With the confrontation, I feel like once we kind of get through that initial part, we do want to just like resolve those conflicts and like get down to the root issue. And if it
Mhm.
means having that dialogue, that back and forth dialogue, and like really understanding each other, I think goes a long way. Now, when I talked about earlier, when you decide not to understand each other's perspectives and you just kind of sweep it under the rug and act like you understood what I was talking about, yeah, we got another thing coming. We got another
Mhm.
problem.
Mhm.
So anyway,
No, I 100% agree. I think it's like, yeah, it's the definition of conflict is different, and I think
mhm,
when we get through conflict, we need to like really like I think what like maybe it's like we identify patterns more than men where we're like let's analyze why this happened and I want to talk about it to make sure it doesn't happen again. Let's get into a
yeah,
prevention mindset versus they're just like I don't know, I just said don't do it and I didn't do it.
right. Because we recognize patterns and we're like, all right, how can we make sure this doesn't happen again? Or what are we doing to like resolve this? And if
The root
we keep
cause.
seeing the exactly that root cause, if we keep seeing repeat patterns, out of there.
I love it. I love it. This is a lot. I feel like this has been
It is,
therapeutic.
it has been. It's been great.
I
I
feel
definitely
like
needed this.
I needed this episode. Um, husband, I love you. Don't judge me for this one. No, he won't care. That is the
I
thing though.
cannot wait.
I feel like good men will hear this and they'll be like, yeah, that's true. Like if you're the kind of man who's like, not all men, it's probably you. It's probably you.
It's definitely about you. If you're like, not all men do that. No kidding. Just like not all women do what I just said, like what we all
Yeah.
said. So
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Appreciate that. Okay, now that we have come to the end, we like to close out every episode by sharing the last drop of tea for the day. Stephanie, tell us what it is.
So, as we've talked about, many men and women may not show signs of all of these generalizations, and they might have some characteristics outside of what we discussed today. It's important to understand each other's communication styles, backgrounds, and personalities to truly understand how each of us communicate within our friendships and relationships.
All right, that was beautiful. All right, bye, guys.
Bye.